What if I would have kicked that door in and got caught up in the suction from the flames?
It broke out before sunrise on Veterans Day, 2015.
I just couldn't believe the amount of fire that we had.
The fire that completely engulfed this eastern Henrico County home.
You could really feel the heat, and it was spreading pretty quick.
Flames so powerful, they nearly leapt into the nearby woods.
It looked like they were well, over 100 feet up in the air.
When the smoke finally cleared, the house was destroyed. Of course, most neighbors assumed it must be an accident. But was it? Or was it the ending to a decades-old mystery? One with puzzle pieces stretching from central Virginia all the way to western Florida. It all began back on May 16, 2000. That's when a Cadillac owned by Vershawn Jackson caught fire in Richmond's Fulton neighborhood. Jackson filed an insurance claim and about 10 days later received a $5,200 check. 1 month later, here in Leesburg, Florida, flames broke out inside Verdon Taylor's mobile home. Taylor would receive nearly $9,000 from his insurance company, though these two fires were separated by about 750 miles. There was a connection.
It was a father and son, Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson, father and son.
And for about 15 years, they seemed like the unluckiest family in history.
No pattern, no rhyme, no reason.
Houses, cars, trailers, RVs, all owned by or connected to Taylor and Jackson, would just seem to randomly catch fire. In return, father and son, and sometimes their girlfriends, would receive a big check from various insurance companies.
We had some claims as small as $3,000 all the way up to an excess of $300,000.
And often they would get more money than what the building or vehicle had been originally purchased for. In all, they received nearly $1 million after filing claims related to 34 different fires. So were Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson just plain cursed? Not quite. In fact, the federal government says they were two of the most clever and cold-blooded arsonists the Richmond area has ever seen.
They were every true sense, a threat to the public.
So how did they get away with it for so long? Investigators say the short answer, these two were good at setting fires that didn't look suspicious. But federal agents were closing in. How a floor tile, an old couch, and dry cleaning receipts led to an arrest. That's next.
The scheme was to purchase cars, mobile homes, and single-family, sometimes duplex-type residences, and burn them for insurance fraud.
For more than 15 years, federal prosecutors say the father and son team of Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson went on an arson spree unlike Central Virginia has ever seen.
That blatant, callous disregard for human life, all for the sake of a profit, is just unconscionable.
In one case, half a duplex burned while two elderly brothers slept next door. Another fire was set inside a townhouse right next door to where a family lived with a small child.
To me, it's a miracle nobody died in any of these fires.
But investigators couldn't prove that Taylor and Jackson had done anything wrong until 2015. Early one morning, flames broke out inside this home in Sandston. While most were asleep, Kelly Richardson was awake, headed to work. He said he could see the glow down the street as soon as he stepped outside.
We don't have any street lights here, so it was very unusual to see that type of light early that morning.
Fearing that someone may be inside, the Air Force veteran nearly ran inside the burning home, but stopped when he didn't see a car.
There was so much fire, made you believe nobody was going to survive the fire if they were inside.
Luckily, the home was empty. Neighbors later told firefighters that the new owner had just moved in. His name? Vershawn Jackson. The house purchased and insured just 8 days before the fire. Investigators spent days digging through the charred remains. When they reached the basement, they found something unusual. It looked like something had been poured on the floor. The ATF removed the tiles and sent them to a lab for testing. Turns out that liquid was gasoline.
I don't know if it was sloppy or carelessness or just brazenness.
Senior Special Agent Ken Mosley has never talked publicly about the case until now. He says the ATF began investigating Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson in 2014, but the evidence pulled from the rubble of the Sandston fire really helped them build a solid case.
The fact that they got away with it for so long, over such an extended period and over such a geographical area, also adds to it, but I really feel like our job was to take them out take them off the street so they're not going to injure anybody.
Mosley and his team went through tens of thousands of documents and started comparing hundreds of fire scene photos.
Fighting through the obstacles of retrieving old documents and finding old witnesses was one of the biggest challenges of the case.
That is when patterns finally started to emerge. A couch that survived one fire later burned in another, and the exact same set of clothes with dry cleaning tags on them in the names of both Taylor and Jackson were found at two different scenes.
Also, a photo taken behind the residence where Vershawn Jackson was living showed a TV, an old-fashioned TV set, a tube TV. That TV, a little more than a year later, appears to us was the same TV found in a fire out in Jarrett, Virginia, that his father, Verdon Taylor, had. That TV, which by the way was facing out the window and was not plugged in, was obviously used for staging.
This trailer is one of the reasons why Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson finally got burned. It was spotted at several of the arson scenes. Inside, investigators say it was loaded with Goodwill furniture that they would take to stage other homes with that they'd eventually set fire to. So how did they get away with it for so long? Mosley says Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson had an uncanny ability to set fires that looked electrical or unintentional. But by early 2017, Mosley thought he finally had enough evidence. And he was right. A federal grand jury indicted Taylor, Jackson, and 4 female accomplices. Jackson and 3 of the women pled guilty, while charges were dropped against the 4th. Taylor was convicted at trial and will likely spend the rest of his life in prison. The scars left by their arson spree are still visible in parts of central Virginia. Years later, a home they burned on Q Street in Richmond is still boarded up. The lot in Sandston remains vacant as well. Just a driveway to nowhere, an unwelcome reminder of the neighbors who once put an entire community in danger.
It was dollars to them, it's lives, it's family. You know, it's my best friends here in the fire department, you know, that I want to see go home tomorrow morning. And those things are bad.
Prosecutors say it's possible that Verdon Taylor and Vershawn Jackson are responsible for arsons dating back to the 1980s. Both men have been ordered to pay all of the insurance money back. The ATF says that anyone with information about other properties these two may have owned should call the ATF. Working for you in Richmond, John Burkett, CBS 6 News.
Crime Insider with John Burkett.
I'll take you behind the blue lights and yellow tape to give you the inside scoop on what's really going down.
Crime Insider